This video will walk you through the remaining portion of exercise E15-4, the second part of the problem, which asks you to use the proportional method to construct a journal entry in accounting for a mixed unit which consists of bonds and stock that we have issued. So I've set this up very similar to the first part of the problem using the incremental method, but remember we're using a proportional method here. And the proportion, so let's get the total value of the transaction. The total value of the transaction is that there were 10,000 units issued, which are made up of 9,600 units sold on the open market, 400 units given to our underwriter. We sold 9,600 for cash, $850 each unit, and so we had total proceeds of $8.16 million, and we gave our underwriter 400 units, had an assumed value of 850 units, and so the value of the services they provided was $340,000. So the total value we need to account for is $8.5 million. The proportional method says, unlike the incremental method, the proportional method says we take the proportion of each item within the bundled transaction. So we have stocks and bonds, and we allocate a portion of their fair value to the total fair value of both of them added together, if that makes any sense. So each unit that we've issued has a bond and a stock component. Each unit, one unit gives one bond, so there are 10,000 units. Our problem tells us the fair market value of the bond is $500, so the total fair market value of the bonds are $5 million. Each unit gives 10 shares of common stock, and the problem tells us each share has a $40 market value. So the market value of the stock of each unit is 10,000 units times 10 shares times $40, $4 million. So the total fair market value of the whole transaction should be $9 million. Now, here's where the proportional piece comes in. The proportion of this total fair value that is made up of bonds is the $5 million divided by $9 million, which gives you this 55.56%. The stock is $4 million over $9 million, 44%. So I need to allocate to the bonds of this $8.5 million, of the $8.5 million, 55%, and I allocate to stock of the $8.5 million, 44%. So the total allocated, if I add these together, will be the $8.5 million, which matches that up here. So let's start to plug in these numbers into the journal entry, because that's what the problem is asking for, is the journal entry. So I know the cash I'm going to receive up here. It's given to me. Now, the amount of bonds payable that I'm going to repay, we always record the face value of the bonds, is $5 million. That happens to equal the market value. Even though I only sold 9,600, there are 400 that I've also have an obligation to repay, so 10,000 times 500 face value gives me the $5 million. Now, of this $5 million, I have an amount. So if we look at, let's just bring the $5 million over here. We've only allocated $472,000 to it using the proportional method, and what this tells us then is that I'm promising to repay something that I'm giving lesser value for up front, and that's a discount. So the discount issued to the bond, the discount on the bond is $277,000 in some odd cents. The bond issue costs are going to be the same proportion, that 55%, so let's do it in an equation. It's 55% times the $340,000 total issue cost. So that bond issue cost is $188. Now to the common stock. Since there are 10,000 units, each unit gives 10 shares. Let's just write this out here. There are a total of 100,000 shares issued at a $5 par value, and so the total value to paid-in capital common stock is the par value per share times the number of shares issued. So 500,000 goes to common stock. Okay, so we're missing now one piece, and I'm going to take the easy way out, and I'm just going to plug the difference. My left side has to equal my right side, and this is the right answer, $3.126 million. But I just want to take a second to talk about that, because if you look at the total $8.5 million, and you say, well, 44% should have gone to the stock, that means I should have $3.7 million in paid-in capital. But if you add those two items up, you only have $3.6 million issued to paid-in capital. So we have a difference of $151,000, which is very confusing because this should equal out exactly. Now the reason for this is because how we handle issuance costs. Issuance costs with a bond get recorded up here and then amortized over the life of the bond, expensed over the life of the bond. Stock, when there are issuance costs, gets netted with the paid-in capital, which in essence reduces the paid-in capital. So watch what happens here. Of the total issue cost, the $340,000, I'm saying 44% go to bonds, and it matches exactly. So in other words, the $3.7 million I expected was reduced by the issuance costs, which is how FASB requires us to record the transaction. So this is the answer that we were looking for. Very complicated, and there are a lot of different pieces to the transaction. If that's still causing you problems, please stop by and see me, and I will help you to better understand it.